Well, hello and welcome to week 3 of Liturgies and Pentecostal Ministry. This week's video discussion on the text is going to be abbreviated. I have a tutorial on how to navigate the ATLA database, and I will include that in this video. And so I'm going to make this brief. But where do you begin, right? Both Tomberlin and Smith in their chapters 3. Um, this is really where the two texts really dovetail nicely and complement one another. Both will be talking about the Spirit's work in our liturgies, our liturgical practices. Um, and they both talk about not just the spiritual aspect, but also the human fleshly, if you will, in a good way. Tactile might be a better understanding of just how these practices um, help us to embrace the gospel, to get the gospel message into our bones, if you will. Tumberland talks about the fivefold gospel here, and I've been kind of alluding to that the last couple of weeks. But the fivefold gospel, that Jesus is our Savior, Sanctifier, Spirit Baptizer. He's our healer and He's our soon coming King. And how there are these sacraments, right? And while the debate is still out on how many sacraments are there, some people, most evangelicals, want to talk about two: baptism and communion, where I think the more high church, ancient churches, Eastern Orthodox, Catholic, Roman Catholic, they talked about 7 sacraments. Um, here Tomberlin offers 5 sacraments that go along with the fivefold gospel, where we are saved, and the practice with that is to be baptized. We are sanctified, and the practice we have for that is to wash one another's feet. We are filled with the Spirit. We talk about Spirit baptism, and the practice, the sacrament, is speaking in tongues. It's sort of a stretch, but it's a conversation that is perhaps for another day. Maybe somebody would like to write on that. Hint, hint. Um, since actually Tumberland doesn't get into that in a chapter, but there's also healing. This is something that we are all used to. This tactile understanding of taking oil, putting it in our hands, and touching one another in the forehead, or whatever, and uh, believing that through that activity, through that action, the efficacious nature, the healing nature of Christ comes through and is available to us. And then, of course, the soon coming King. We talk about Jesus as our coming King, and the sacrament of communion, where we celebrate not only this remembrance of what took place, 2,000 years ago, but also remembering that in the future we'll be eating the marriage supper of the Lamb together. And the communion table kind of acts like a time machine. And we'll talk about that when we get there. But these tactile activities that are really a part of our spirituality. And so you'll find that both Cumberland and Smith just are packed full of these ideas of where we can meet the Spirit, meet God in these activities. And so I hope you'll give yourself to them. I'm looking forward to your discussions on that. And just a reminder, I would like you to discuss both books and comment on both. And also, this week, you will be graded to get your discussion in by Wednesday. Your initial post has to be in by Wednesday, or it's going to be counted late. Just a couple of points off if it's not. So let's go through this. Ready? When you sign in to the PTS class portal, you'll choose Liturgy and Pentecostal Ministry, of course, and come to our class page. This, of course, will be customized, personalized for you. And of course, you have your various pages that you want to go to: dashboard, syllabus, lessons, assignments, and discussions. These are basically the 5 pages you're interested in. All these others really don't pertain to this class. If you want to see who's in the class, you can go to the roster or whatever. Over here, of course, you have the schedule coming up, discussions that are coming due and open. For our purposes for this assignment, for the ATLA database assignment, we want to go to the syllabus. On the syllabus page, you'll find that I have various links, reading lists, and files that are very helpful for not only this class, but also links that you might want to download and save for other classes. For instance, on any paper you write, I've got a nice little article here taken from the University of Colorado that gives you some expressive words when introducing a quote. For instance, you don't want to just say, well, Dr. Smith says, you know. No, there's some, straightforward, uncomplicated words you can use, Dr. Smith states. But there's also some expressive words here that just help you enhance your writing. And all of us need a little help, right? And so this is a really nice resource to help you just kind of get a little flavor into your writing. Is it necessary? No, but we are in the business, if you will, of communicating. We want to communicate the gospel intelligently. And so this is just a nice resource that I believe would help you if you downloaded it right here and save this to some file that you'll keep for the rest of your academic career. It'd be very helpful. It's there. I also have some Turabian help, some Turabian guidelines. You click on that, and of course, this is the way your paper has to be footnoted or formatted. And here, this will show you how to do footnotes and bibliography. You'll need that for your paper. This is a really nice resource for Turabian. Of course, I highly recommend that you get Kate Turabian's latest book, but you'll get that when you do a writing class. There's also a citation generator. If you happen to have a book, an academic book that you want to use in your paper, you put the ISBN number in here, and it creates the citation for you. Really nice resource. But what I'm assuming is that very few of you, perhaps none of you, are near a library. And so you're going to need resources. And you're going to need to get that from the ATLA database. Because here's the deal. I'm not going to let you go to John MacArthur. I hope you don't go to John MacArthur, but I'm not going to let you go to anybody and go to the internet and say, oh, this is what John MacArthur says about his understanding of baptism. I will not accept that. This is unacceptable for an academic paper. What you're required to do is go to the ATLA database and get all of your resources. Every one of your resources will come from ATLA unless, again, you have access to academic books from an academic library. So you want to click on ATLA database. It'll take you to a sign-in page. Sometimes that sign-in page has three options. There's like the Lee University option, there's the PTS option, and I think there's an option for a library in Athens, which is just north of Cleveland. I've already signed in several times, so it just takes me to the PTS seminary. And so you'll choose that, put in your credentials, your username, and your password, and then you'll sign in. Once you sign in, here you are. You are at the ATLA database, and this thing is chock full of resources. And so when you get here, you're going to want to just do a couple of settings. First of all, you want the Bolin phrase setting because you're going to put in, several words to find your article. You also want the full text. That's important. We're not looking for just a synopsis. We're not looking for just titles. We want the full article because when you do your research, you're going to want to read the article. So once you get your settings the way you want them, full text, Bolin's phrase, we want to start searching for our article. Well, a good place to start is the author's name, Archer. I copied the title already, so I'll paste that in here. You might want to copy the subtitle, put that in there, and do your search. And what happens? The article pops up. That's that simple. What you want to do is you want to get the citation of that. So we want the full text, remember. You click on that and it gives you the full text. Now, for this assignment, I am not asking you to read the paper. I'm not asking for a critique or any comments on the paper. Now, you might want to download this. This actually talks in this article. Ken refers to the sacraments. He refers to Pentecostal spirituality. This might be a good article to use for your paper. You can do that. But that's not what I'm asking for this class. What I'm asking for is a citation. And it's not this here. This is not the citation. This just takes you to the article. What you want is the citation over here. You'll find that. This is the citation icon right here. You see that? You click on the icon and it takes you to the citation format page. And it gives you several options. You got the ABNT, the AMA, APA. What we're looking for is Turabian Chicago. Either one, Turabian or Chicago, they're the same. And here we go. We find Chicago. And what you want is the footnote. Well, you're not going to find footnotes in here, but you will find reference list. So you're going to want to make a note that reference list equals footnote. Do that right now. Reference list equals the footnote. I am looking for the footnote. So you make a copy of that, paste it in the Word document. But also, I'm looking for the bibliography, and there it is, Chicago, Turabian. Just when you think Turabian, think Chicago. When you think Chicago, think Turabian. The bibliography. So we want to make a copy of that and paste it into the document that you're going to send me, both the bibliography and the reference list. You'll want to do that for this assignment. Now, when you do this for your papers, anytime you reference a paper, an article in your paper, you're going to need a footnote. Anytime you reference an article, you're going to need this at the end of your paper in your bibliography. If you need help with setting those up, that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you set up those properly. Okay, we've got that in our little document. Now we want to get Smith, right? Now, writing Smith in here isn't going to be the best thing, right? How many people by the name of Smith are writing articles? But we also are looking for thinking in tongues. We've got the full text here. We got the bowling thing going on, making sure. Hit search. And sure enough, a couple articles come up. This looks like it's a critique. We don't want that. This guy's writing about Smith's book. Looks like he's writing against it. I don't know. It's interesting. I might look that up later. But what we want is we want the actual article, Thinking in Tongues. We want the full text. Again, if you're interested, you can download it, but that's not what I'm asking. I'm simply asking for the citation. And here, over here on the right-hand side, is the citation icon. You click on that, takes you to the citation format page, and there you go. The reference list, which equals what? Yes, footnote. Make a copy of that. Paste it in your document. Go down here and make a copy of the bibliography. Paste it in the document, and simply send me that document, and you've got 5 extra points added to your final paper. Now, I want to emphasize that the reason we go through this ATLA exercise is because, and you make the note of this, don't tell me I haven't told you, that you will have to use academic resources for your final paper. That means if you go to the library, you just can't get, Joe anybody's book off the shelf and say that he's writing on this. No, it has to be an academic monograph, an academic book. Again, most of you aren't near a library to do that, so I'm allowing you to get it off ATLA. ATLA has academic journals, articles that you can use. You cannot just pull an article off the internet. I don't care if it's the greatest scholar in the world. You have to get your resources either from an academic book or an academic journal off of ATLA. I hope I'm making that clear. I guess you can refer to others, but your required number um, of sources has to be from ATLA. If you have any questions on that, let me know. Well, I would like to just introduce to you a resource like I do every week. And just quickly, there's one particular book, one particular author or scholar who has really helped put Pentecostalism kind of on the academic map. You see, before the 1970s, 1980s, really up until the 1990s, hardly anybody was really writing academically about Pentecostalism, not even Pentecostals. We had our Pentecostal scholars, we had our Lee University, we had the seminary that came around, what is it, in the 1980s. Um, but that was just a fledgling, kind of situation. It really wasn't until Harvey Cox wrote his book, Fire from Heaven, that really put Pentecostalism on the academic map. This book cannot be overemphasized. You see, back in the 1960s, Harvey Cox, who might be considered, we might say he's a liberal theologian. I guess we could put him in that camp. I don't like using those terms, um, but he's a Harvard, professor, so you can make the connection. And he wrote in the 1960s a book called The Secular City. And basically, his premise was that the church in the next century will continue to lose its influence on society, and society as a whole, in general, is going to become more secular, less spiritual, less connected to the Christian church. And he wrote a little book on that called The Secular City. Well, in the 1980s, he reversed himself because he came in contact with the Pentecostal movement, Pentecostal people. And it just dawned on him that his whole premise from the 60s with the secular city was wrong, that Pentecostalism was impacting the world and that it was making this influence that went beyond what perhaps more um, liturgical uh, other churches were doing, these, higher churches. And he really made the point that there's something going on in the Pentecostal movement. He didn't know what it was. He wasn't Pentecostal. Again, this is a kind of a liberal theologian, just kind of looking from the outside. And he writes this book, Fire from Heaven. And it's not just academic. He actually visited Pentecostal churches. He traveled the world. He came into the worship services, and he wrote about Pentecostalism, and it just put Pentecostalism on the map. And if you map that out, go back and map that out, that's when Pentecostalism not only began to really flourish, but just become popular within the academy, and everybody was writing on it, and everybody was just kind of making comments on it. It was just amazing. Harvey Cox, Fire from Heaven. I highly recommend this book. Yeah, it's not a Pentecostal, but the guy just he gets it, and the things that he says about Pentecostal, it's really good. And there's some critiques that are good for us to hear, but for the most part, it's a very positive reflection on what the Pentecostal movement is, who Pentecostals are, and I highly recommend it. Okay, there's a lot here. Thank you for sticking with me. I hope now that you will have a good handle on what ATLA is and how to navigate that. I expect you to get your articles from ATLA. And again, I'm here to help you do that, and I'm more than happy to guide you. Okay, God bless you. Have a good week. We'll see you online. Bye bye.